Hello, Master Manifester. Today we're talking about dimensional awareness and manifestation and expanding your consciousness so that you can better support your intentions and bring about the experiences you want to have in your life. So let's get started. Consciousness. We don't really know exactly what it is, but for these theories and this discussion, we're going to say that consciousness is the stage of awareness. It's the stage before you start to interpret and start to consider, and before the assumptions kick in. It is the observerness, the observer state. And if we looked at it from a quantum perspective, it would be like the 0 point state. It still has a vibration, it still has energy and movement. It's just in that waiting to be. What is this going to be? And our consciousness can move throughout different aspects of our being. We can become more conscious of our body, more conscious of our thoughts, of our breathing, of our nervous systems. We can become more conscious of the things around us, noises, sounds. This is the basis for mindfulness is, the new term for getting your focus where you're not constantly thinking about other things. You are just watching what is and accepting the data and the information. And the less you filter in the moment, the more you start to accept, and the more you accept, the more you become aware of. Because remember how your brain works is it's looking for predictive processing. It wants to follow your identity, your particular mental story that predicts whatever comes next in your story, right? It wants to predict things to keep you safe. So when you're considering your consciousness in terms of manifestation, it's important to understand that there are different dimensions of everything. And we're just going to talk really briefly about if you want to look up the details, we're referring to M theory and F theory. These are two forms of unified string theory that talk about dimensions. There are 10 dimensions and an 11th dimension that is time in M theory. And in F theory, there is double time. Okay. So just the short science of what we're talking about right now. We're also talking about the 2022 Nobel Prize, where they talked about, the quantum field and how everything is basically locally not physical until it is interacted with by light or a particle or something else. It has to have an interaction, otherwise, it's in an indefinite state that could be anything, could be any possibility, and it will collapse into the greatest probability. Okay, so just a brief overview of the science that we're talking about. So, getting back to the psychological observer, in quantum psychology, your mind acts as the ultimate watcher, kind of filtering the information you get and sometimes even changing what your perceptions are and how you interpret it to make sure that it's cohesive in your story. And if there are any gaps, it'll just fill in the information with whatever makes sense. So you never see absolute reality. You see a version, a filtered, highly filtered version. It's almost like Hollywood, It's a highly filtered version of reality. But in this case, you're not, being marketed to by the Matrix, not per se. It's more of emergent properties and qualities of a system that's just naturally interacting with itself. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Matrix isn't a marketer, but even if it didn't mean to be, it kind of works. So your brain is also like this malleable quantum, quantum system, a quantum field. Like it can change. You have neuroplasticity. Your brain is always changing and updating information. I mean, it's a continuous thing where it's constantly adapting to the story and adapting the story for you to notice and see. And when you get into the dimensional focus, like if you were to drop down into 1D, you would basically be a single point with no place to go. Just literally like a single little point of light. That would be like almost the zero state where a particle is just waiting to be something. It's tense and it's ready. It's not, non-existent. It's not dead. It's just waiting for that potential. And then in 2D, you would be like a flat screen. You would be like a piece of paper, like a paper doll, a motion paper doll. You can move back and forth and up and down, but you don't have depth. You don't have substance. And then here in the 3D, this is what I think is happening in the 3D. I think that our consciousness can move through all of these dimensions. And that's why we keep focusing on the idea of ascension. We want the clarity of the focus of the expansion of our awareness. I hope that was clear because it made sense to me. So in the 3D, everything is denser. All the energy is much more compacted, creating many limitations, but at the same time, the potential for greater expansion. And time for us seems linear, but in reality, in actual physics, time is not linear. It is like a big ball of twine folding in and over itself. And if we look into the 4D, we would see basically like screens of ourselves. I mean, everything would be open and obvious. We would see like all of the cells of our body. We would see everything that there is within every cell and atom of the 3D existence. It would all just be, it's almost like having an updated processor that can hold more information. Like it can process more. You got a 1 terabyte, or how about, 100 terabyte, versus how much information the 3D can hold in the denser linear focus of time, where in 4D, time is literally like a direction. You would move back and forth in time, kind of like in dreams. Like I lucid dream a lot. If you lucid dream a lot, or if you dream just heavily, you'll notice that you can move back and forth in time very quickly. And then in 5D, it would be like pure energy and unity encompassing all of the other dimensions, able to access the 4D, the 3D, the 2D, the 1D, and all the way down, right? And it's almost incomprehensible, but if you think about the way that our consciousness works here in the 3D and how our brains construct the story, it's really interesting to think, you know, what what is the story that we have already selected? Because somewhere in time there is already that future us, and there is still that past us, still at those points in time, right? So it's almost like we do have a choice, because you can program your choices, right? When you set intentions, you're effectively setting a program. Of course, you have to reinforce the program because you have old programs running, but you're effectively setting a new automated program. This is your free will. This is how neuroscience works. You set the program underneath, because the brain has already made the choices before it even tells you that there's a choice to make. This is what brain studies show us. So when you want to make changes, you have to make changes to the underlying program, because the brain works in sort of if-then protocols. If this happens, do this, right? So when you're getting into the quantum manifestation, the basically the blueprint of what you want real reality to be. This is why we say you are the manifestation. Your programming underneath the story that you are telling your unconscious, your body, your brain, your heart, your gut, the story that is repeating for you over and over again and that you are accepting, is what manifests. This is what you will notice in your reticular activating system of your brain, your RAS, that filters your information, right? Is only going to let you notice what matches the story, what you believe, what you agree with in your memories, and what matches your identity, your predictive processing program. So I hope this helped you to feel a little bit of inspiration about, what our consciousness might be doing on this plane. And maybe, develop your own theories. Drop some in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. This is always a work in progress. I'm always taking on new information, inspiring myself, hopefully inspiring you. And yeah, I really love doing this. It's fun. And when you start doing things like this and you start observing from the understanding of programming, you start letting go of those feelings of shame and something's wrong with me. That there's nothing wrong with you. You're just programmed differently than what the desired outcome is, the desired experience that you want to have. So you just need to shift your identity by shift your programming, right? Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe and sign up for the Method News newsletter in the description below.